We are at the .next event organized by Nutanix in Porte de Versailles in Paris. And we have the pleasure to meet with Sudhess Nair, who is president of Nutanix, and Sammy Zoghlami, who is responsible for the southern EMEA, which means the southern part of Europe. Gentlemen, good afternoon. Of course, our readers know Nutanix, for a long time now, but they might know Nutanix as a leader and pioneer of hyper-converged architecture and solutions. But recently, not recently, but some times ago, you moved the strategy from hyper-converged solution to multi-cloud. And could you explain what do you want to do with that, and how far are you to deliver a full solution of what you're expecting to do?
So Guy, first of all, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity and picking a beautiful spot here with an amazing view of the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, next time we'll do it over there.
Up there, yeah. And that is probably what I'll use to also explain the identity of hyperconverged for Nutanix, because we are very proud of the fact that we were able to create a magic quadrant category. Very few companies can say they were the creators of a category like that, and also have a really good position in the first version of it in the top right. The way we think of hyperconverged is like that foundation for that tower. I don't think anyone who looks at the beauty of that tower thinks about how deep the foundation is. I don't know how deep it is, but I'm pretty sure that is engineered.
There is no foundation, it's just on the ground like this.
Yeah, just sitting there and the wind comes and it blows, right? The engineering that went into making that strong, the calculations that went into it, knowing fully well that no one will see it or touch it or appreciate it. People will look at the beauty of this on a daytime like this, in the night lights. Hyperconverged is like that foundation. It has to be strong, it has to be deep, it has to sustain further buildings on top of it. We want that to be invisible, deliberately so. How you build, how deep that foundation decides how strong that tower is going to be. And similarly, how well the hyperconverged is built is how you can deliver other capabilities for customers. For example, in case of Nutanix, the way we have built a metadata structure that is truly elastic and cloud-friendly with data locality, that allows us to deliver multi-cloud capabilities. How we have built-in real-time analytics in the metadata, that enables us to deliver machine learning capabilities when it comes to predictive analytics for VM sizing and things like that. So we are very comfortable with the brand of hyperconverged. However, we know that our customers are not looking just for hyperconverged. They are looking to build infrastructure that is agile, simple yet invisible, so that they can deliver business outcome for their customers. So it's a multi-act play for us. The first act was hyperconverged. Second act, I would say, was around making virtualization invisible. And the third act that is currently unfolding is about cloud, making cloud invisible.
I attended a conference not long ago in San Jose organized by Net Events, and the keynote speaker was David Chiriton. He's a professor at Stanford, maybe you know him. Yeah. And he was presenting the cloud with the example of Amazon, AWS, at the medieval stage of AT, saying that the Amazon is a new master and everybody else is not a slave, but they report to that.
Followers, that's it.
And he was saying that nowadays all the customers, all the enterprise, they have the tool they need to build a cloud in their own data center and to recover the mastering of their own solution. Do you agree with that? And is that a goal you are pursuing?
No, I think it depends on how you define cloud. Right. The way we think of cloud.
Well, he was saying that there is a misunderstanding of a public cloud, because he said, what do you mean by that? Yeah. Disneyland is a public cloud. You just pay for it and then you can do what you want.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. That is what I think you just defined cloud in a way that is dear to us. That is, to us, cloud is about a consumption model. The more you use, the more you pay. The less you use, the less you pay. The difference is though, Disneyland you can go and come back. If you go to Disneyland, it doesn't mean that you have to stay there and live there forever and pay that. The current version of cloud, the advantage is it is a consumption model that is friendly for CFOs, CapEx turns into OpEx. However, most of the advantages of cloud, if you truly want to deliver to your business, you will have to build your applications in proprietary architecture that are delivered by the cloud vendor. For example, serverless computing or IoT capabilities, or even storage, some of the storage technologies in terms of how APIs are built. These are all proprietary to the cloud vendor of your choice. And if you build that application to work with that cloud specifically, then you somehow end up stuck. And then the problem with that model is it takes away from the first thing that you were looking for, which is freedom. Freedom in consumption model, but unpredictable consumption model and predictable lock-in will take away from that. And going back to that example, you don't want to be stuck in a theme park. Theme park is good, but after 6-7 hours, you know, you are stuck and the kids are crying and
well,
things
Disney
are expensive.
Would love it, I suppose.
Disney would love it, but you want to go back into a quiet room and sleep. So the next iteration of cloud, David Sheraton or Amazon, it's not like they don't know this. Every time, the first time a technology comes, it is usually proprietary. So for example, Nokia phones to BlackBerry. BlackBerry was a closed architecture. Pretty much everything used to go through their data center. Apple leapfrogged them. Even though Apple is not known as an open architecture, application building is pretty open. You can build applications on Apple APIs. You can collaborate with other payment systems. You know, there's a lot of freedom that they brought, and that is why the ecosystem of Apple is significantly more significantly larger than BlackBerry. Similarly, the first iteration of public cloud today, whether it's Amazon or Azure or Google, they all are trying to do things proprietary in its own way. It is just a logical assumption for us to make that at some point in time, soon enough, cloud also will be abstracted out so that customers can have true freedom to choose on-prem, off-prem, multi-cloud, without having to worry about being locked into any one cloud.
So in a way, it means that your goal is to build a two-way strategy solution. That means you can go from on-premise to the cloud and go back if you want, and to have that seamlessly, I mean, for customers.
Yeah. So we were very consistent on this in the sense that our first talked about making the storage invisible. That really means that abstracting out block, file, object. It doesn't matter. You don't have to buy a NetApp for file, object storage on a S3, block on EMC. Don't worry about that. Let it all become a software application. That's what Nutanix did with AFS, object storage that is coming out, our block capability. Next level, virtualization. We don't want you to be stuck with VMware or Hyper-V or KVM. You know? We want to make sure that you have the flexibility and the freedom to go back and forth between that. And consistently, when you take it to the next level, we want to deliver the same level of abstraction between on-prem and off-prem, same consumption model, same API first attitude, and the simplicity where the details are invisible. So I think we are very consistent in our journey, and it is unfolding in a number of different acts.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it means you are fully in the software-defined movement. I mean, you know, everything is becoming software. But in the journey to this multi-cloud strategy, does that mean that you are going to, because if you see the situation now, you have VMware that's a partnership with Amazon, Google, who is a partnership with another company, and so they all, as you said, they're all trying to lock in the customer on all solution. Does that mean that you are going to work with all of them at the same level, or are you going to have a few cloud vendors which will be partner of choice?
I think we will get dizzy if we focus on competition and vendors only, because vendors are also trying to figure out where the market is going, and we are all smart people, but we are all finding things differently. We are all coming from different approach. For example, VMware is coming to this market with a product that started its building in 2001. 2001 was way before containers, way before cloud, way before microservices and IoT. And they are not immune. As great a company as it is, they are not immune to the the innovator's dilemma, the legacy, the burden of the legacy. So for them, they are doing it to make sure that they can continue to disrupt itself irrespective of the legacy. The advantage they have is that there are lots of customers. Nutanix, on the other hand, we started in 2009. We knew Amazon, what they are trying to do. We knew what Google did. We knew what software defined is. We knew what container world is going to look like. So today we have an advantage of able to see all of that and start with a cleaner architecture. So in a sense, when we look at all of this, we see that there are opportunities for us to partner, an opportunity where we will compete. And the clarity should come from end user customers and their customers and partners. And that's why we consistently focus on our customers, our partners, and our customer's customer, and we deliberately try to not focus on competition. And then usually what happens is customers will tell us, you and you, vendors, you should come together. Because if you come together, I get an exponential benefit. For example, Citrix.
So 1 + 1 is equal 3.
1 + 1 equals 3 or more. It has to be bigger. Otherwise, they could easily work with 2 vendors. Citrix is a good example. Citrix and Nutanix coming together allows customers to deliver applications and desktops in a secure, simple, scalable way that they could not have done before, because as good as Citrix is, infrastructure was holding back. Another example is SAP. Yesterday, we announced support for HANA. And that's a powerful example. SAP is at the core of every major organization when it comes to the most mission-critical application. It is not easy for SAP to take any certifications lightly. And the fact that Nutanix and SAP are working together, this week is the conference that is going on, is because customers are looking at both companies and saying, hyper-converged architecture and Nutanix's point of view is how modern data centers should be built. SAP is extremely critical for our business. It makes sense for you to come together. That's why we are together.
Let's talk a little bit about the Southern Europe business. Because in fact you have many different countries. It's not it's one region, but it's different countries, and I suppose that's different approach with different customers. Could you explain a little bit what's different with what you're doing regarding to the global strategy of Nutanix?
I would say, in a way, the market of delivering application, virtualize or through containers or optimize the operation of data center is an ask in all the countries of the region. France, Portugal, Italy, Switzerland, Morocco, Spain. You have clouds, private clouds, you have public cloud demand, you have VDI deployment, databases in all those places. Now,
so do you mean that you have a lot of common grounds with all the different countries?
Absolutely. I think you can see the phases where France is the most advanced country. That's because we started earlier. We invest a lot in France. We have teams everywhere, a lot of skills here. And we are building those teams maybe 1 year, 1.5 years behind in Italy, in Switzerland, in Spain. So I see in those countries, France, where it was maybe 1.5 years ago. The difference is the global recognition, the global brand, the success brings success. They are growing much faster than France at that time. So I see the exponential development of those countries, getting there. In terms of specificities, our technology is quite generalist. I think we have customers that are very large with very big environment that choose Nutanix to simplify and automate all the operations to serve applications. So that's the number one case where a customer like us. We also work with smaller customers where here is more the question of having a simple IT, simple infrastructure, because there are less teams, less expertise to put on the table to build architecture and operate. So on that segment, depending on the country, you have very large customers and mid-market in different proportion, but we address the two markets very well. And the third area is with our partners. In every of those countries, we partner with service providers that can deliver Nutanix as a service, or VM as a service, or container as a service, based on our technology. So that's another way to simplify for smaller customers or sometimes very large customers.
Sammy's territory, I always wonder, that is like the unity in diversity case study. He's got Switzerland where they speak French and German, France where they speak French, Italy where they Italian, Spanish speaks, Spain speaks Spanish, Portuguese, and then you have Maghreb where they speak Arabic. So he's got 6 or 7 countries.
So you speak all of these languages?
No, actually I should, but we, the Latin DNA
helps.
Even in Switzerland, our team has got a lot of Latin DNA.
So they're very passionate.
Yeah,
they're very passionate.
There's a lot of commonality.
So the commonality on technology, while it is true though, this is a good example of why the essence of Nutanix, the be local before global. You cannot take a channel marketing play that worked in Paris and go to Italy, right? It probably won't work in Portugal. It won't work in. So they have to customize it, tweak it, and marketing programs, PR programs, even features, channel ecosystem, partners. In a sense, it makes it harder, but in a sense, it also prepares us for a larger world. And that's one of the reasons why I think, I'm pretty thrilled. Obviously, they all have great food. Every one of these countries have amazing food. But we love coming here partly because, it's a microcosm of a diverse world that we have to sell and learn from.
Maybe a last question for you. The growth of Nutanix is, it's big. It's double almost every year. It's going pretty well. But the thing is, at the same time, it is losing a lot of money, and it can't last forever. There is some day that you will have to make some money. But it seems that the financial market doesn't, they are happy with that still, because you are a $10 billion company now. That's a capitalization of the company. And I suppose your goal is to stay an independent company as far as you can do. Being a $10 billion company, I suppose this helps a lot, because there are not that many vendors who will have all the cash to be able to buy Nutanix. So how do you see the future of your company?
Yeah, if anything out of this interview that people take away is exactly that myth that we are a company that cannot sustain because we are losing money. Let me explain what I mean by that in a simplest way. When we went public, we raised, I think less than, altogether we had the amount of cash that we had in the bank was less than 140 million or something before we went public. After IPO, it surged to close to $500 million, or less than $500 million. Today, we have close to $1 billion. Now, let me explain why this perception of losing while the cash from operations keep climbing. There are two things at play here. Number one is that Nutanix is more and more a software company. And between software services, there is always going to be deferred revenue that we collect that will not be recognizing immediately. And the quickest way that you can look at this is look at the cash from operations, right? Now that is complex. The reason why Wall Street appreciates this story is not because we are fooling them in terms of our cash position. We are not spending quarter after quarter. If you go back and look at the earnings, Dustin Williams, our CFO, will talk about our cash balance. Last 3 quarters consistently it has gone up. Then where is the disconnect and what's the logic? The disconnect, like I said, number one is that the deferred versus what is recognized, there is going to be a delta because we are a software company. And second, as a growing company, to attract talent, we will be using our RSUs and stock options, and those will be counted as an expense. Now, all that aside, what is our true north? We have to be a responsible company when it comes to growth. We can't just spend our way and say we are growing, so don't worry about spend. So internally, we have a clear direction of what sort of a company we want to be, and we have communicated that with absolute clarity to the Wall Street. And we use a rule called Rule of 40. It's a very simple rule. Take cash flow, take growth, and see if you can hit 40. That is, if the company is growing 40%, it's okay for you to be zero cash flow company. However, if you fall below 40, you better compensate that. So let's say you're 30% growth, you better generate 10 million or 10%. If you're going at 50, you can afford to go minus 10 if you want to be. The best of the best companies in our industry, there are only 15 or so companies that are hitting that rule of 40 above 40. So companies like Workday, Salesforce.com, mostly SaaS or software companies, that is the best in class, Palo Alto Networks. Nutanix, based on last quarter that we published, that we are at a 55, plus 55, which means that as a company in that rule of 40 that we use internally and we educate the market, we are plus 15 on that rule. So we are very comfortable the way we are running this business. We believe this is an extremely responsible way to grow. Going back to your acquisition question, the true moat against acquisition is innovation and growth. So as long as the company grows, like last quarter, for example, on software and services, we grew almost 57% year over year. If we grow at a close to $1 billion, 57% growth, that's the type of growth that is defying gravity. It'll be very difficult for companies to come in and say, okay, we're going to acquire Nutanix and we will be able to justify a price that makes sense in this kind of for our investors, right? So we are a very responsible company when it comes to fueling growth. But having said that, when we see the opportunity, when we see the surface area of disruption that we have ahead of us, there is no reason for us to stop investing and slow down the growth.
Well, it looks like the Wall Street people are still happy with that too, so
exactly.
Everything is
They're
fine.
They're very smart about this.
Okay, well...
but the headline sometimes catches because they look at the gap loss, and the gap loss, and they just stop reading and say, oh, Nutanix is not making money.
Okay, well, I think we have a pretty detailed conversation. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.